until we address that issue of making CA sexy, making sure that it is actually adopted, because that's what we want, isn't it? So, and this panel session is about exactly that. And our two colleagues have given us some insights of some of the things they're doing. And I think now we need to come up with a few key points of what we have to do. The last presentation mentioned the issue of comparability of systems, or evolutions, if you will. We have some experiences from the West or from other developing countries on other continents, but I think now is the time for us as an African continent to think about what exactly will make CA on our continent sexy. So that means we have to be extremely specific and particular about what we have to do. I think we all agree on that. For a farmer to adopt CA, I think that's what we want. For a farmer to adopt CA, what do they need to perceive CA to be? That's my question. So, the first question I'm going to put to the panelists is, yesterday we heard the farmers, and I think we all heard their position, and it's very clear. That's what I liked about yesterday's session with the farmers. They were extremely clear about what their experiences are with CA, what they gain from it. So if we go from there, what do farmers want to see out of CA? That's number one. Is it just money? But also we have to think about who is the African farmer? Is it a large-scale farmer? Who is the typical African farmer? I think we can all agree that it's more or less the small-scale farmer, and to a large extent, the subsistence farmer. So, as we ponder on the first question, how does the African farmer view CA? Let's also address the question a bit further and say, how does the subsistence farmer view CA? How does the small-scale farmer view CA? Or how should they view CA? And what do we need to do to ensure that they view CA that way? That's the first part of the question. There are a few other words that I picked up in the two presentations, and I narrowed them down to enabling conditions. A subsistence farmer, a small-scale farmer, does not have the kind of capital to invest in large-scale or in big, sophisticated systems, which means a specific enabling environment has to be created. And this environment will involve research, that is the science of things. It will also have to involve the market systems, whereby if I am a CA farmer, I'm guaranteed that I will grow over time in terms of my production. That means I have all the inputs I need and so forth. So there are two aspects to this question, and I'm going to take it back to the panelists very briefly, 1 minute, 2 minutes each, and then we are going to give the floor to Kamil. Thank you. Go ahead. No, we'll start with El Faras, and give you a bit of a breather, and then we'll come back to you.
Okay, thank you. I think to respond to your question, I'll say what a farmer told me. That means when we have started, that means, as I said, we have started with young and old farmers. And one of the old farmers, that means he was over 80. And after working with him for 5 years, he told me one day, that means he told me one word that I just, like, wake me up. That means, because I was thinking that I was bringing to him a new technology. But what he said that, you know, Usama, I'll tell you one thing. After seeing you what you are doing with me for 5 years now, I'm just looking what I was doing with my parents and my grandparents. That means using that wooden plow and just disturbing the soil a little bit and having nice production. It used to be very, very drudgery. That means, as Pat said, that means he had to walk for 100 kilometers to plow his land. But we used to have like 70% at the independence in '56. That means we used to have 70% of the population of Morocco living in the rural area. Then hand labor and labor was available. That's how they perceived. That means this is how they look to the CA, really speaking. That means it's just something that reminds them in the old days when they used to use some, I don't like the word, but indigenous implements, the way you say it. That means we say it as scientists. But most probably they have developed those implements through the history. During the colonial period, we have brought to them the new technologies, the improved plows, and we have said that we need to invert the land. We need to work harder than what we used to do to improve our production. The soils were fertile at that time. That means they had high levels of organic matters, and they had, and we have been able in North Africa to feed Europe during the Second War, and after. That means when they were rebuilding Europe also. That means most of the production grains were going from south of Mediterranean to the north of the Mediterranean region. Not anymore. That means in all North Africa, we are the big importers, the first importers of grain in the world, because we consume a lot of bread. But this is how the farmers, really speaking, look to the CA. That means it's just something that they used to know, and this crop integration also was very fruitful. Now most of the organic, that means residues that are left by the animals in intensive production is sold for the people who grow horticulture crops for export also. Not anymore. That means the recycling in the fields. That means even if the animals are in a short period of time after harvest on the field, but as I said, that means it's just part of what they are producing to make the soils better. But during the year, they are under intensification production of milk or meat, and whatever is left from them, that means is sold for another. Then that's why a typical small farmer, really speaking, is like any farmer. That means he's looking to improve his livelihood. That means he wants today to teach his children in school. He wants to have better revenues like anybody. That means if he cannot afford that in his farm, he will move out of the farm, and that's what we are saying.
Before you come in, Mologeta, he's just pretty much described that at the end of the day, it's the farmer who decides. Do we therefore need government? Do we need to do all these policy briefs that go to unresponsive governments? I think that in your reflection, you should try to address that issue, because it is a perception and it's a reality. Am I wrong, my friend? So can you also take that angle as you address this issue, Mologeta?
Well, I don't mean to be mean or to be harsh to anybody, really speaking. But I do believe that in Africa we still have that means a big percentage of the African population in farming. That means in rural parts of. But they are not very well represented. That means in politics, and even the people who are leading the farmers, maybe they don't have enough chance. I don't know, even if they are very well educated today. But when they get into politics, they just mislead their way. I don't say that politics is not important, but the people who are speaking in the name of the farmers, they are mainly politicians. They are not the real farmers.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Mologeta?
You're putting me on a spot now. I don't think we can go along with no government support. governments are there to create enabling environment for farmers to make the decisions. Our role is what options do we present for farmers, options they can select from based on their objectives. So the farmers told us yesterday, whether a small subsistence farmer family needs, they want immediate benefits, they want household food security, that's the number one, not even profitability. Immediately, farmers want to make sure that their families are well fed, there is enough food to the table.
So how do we deal with these socio-economic challenges that you raised correctly? You mentioned that research should be at the service of determining how the socio-economics work. How can we go about that? How do we link that to government and farmers?
Let's answer the question. Farmers need immediate benefits. They are not going to wait 15 years until your soil runoffs are proved to work or not. So how do we make sure that in promoting this technology, we also ensure that appropriate practices are coupled with it? Your zero-tillage practice only alone without appropriate technologies on the ground will not give immediate benefit. It will take time. So can we tell that if a farmer adopts CA practices, year one, would there be an increase in his maize yield, in his legume yield? Would there be an income generated? Yes. But we have to have the evidence to show that. What's the role of government? If you can show government through your policy briefs that if you invest in research and development or you invest in acquisition of CA equipment for such a community, duty-free, subsidy or whatever, here are the implications. You reduce the balance of payment, you reduce your food aid bill, you reduce costs. Then they will listen to you. Then Minister of Finance says, oh, that makes sense. These crazy guys are talking something sensible. But we have not done that. We have not done that. Tell me is there any economist from IFPRI here? I cannot find any government food policy changed because of the good work IFPRI has been doing. Because we have not brought it to the level of their understanding. They want a simple to-do list menu in government. So I just want to challenge the group here, both biophysical and socioeconomists. Do we have the options to show that our technologies work for the youth, for the women, for different agroecologists, and so on? Okay. And one thing, you want to stop?
Yeah. Thank you. The first question was on the use of lead farmers. I think it was more of a comment rather than a question. And I tend to agree, if the use of lead farmers is creating a barrier in the adoption of the technology, you might as well focus on the communities. The second question was on what is the future of CA, especially with small-scale farmers. And the gentleman talked about the age, and also he mentioned the need to focus on small-scale farmers. I do agree with you that the focus has to be on small-scale farmers, and especially if we can also focus on the youth as a means of bringing the youth into the picture, and also making sure that the youth who are the farmers of tomorrow should get interested in using the technology right from the start. The third question was on the socio-economic aspect that I highlighted. Only that I was trying to be brief, but there were other things that the farmer had highlighted, and you could clearly see that his point was saying that that was the way they've been doing farming for a long time, and he referred to the other plot that was under conservation agriculture as a plot that belonged to the researchers, because he said, this is their plot, but for me, this will be my plot, and I will do exactly the way I've been doing the farming in the past. So there's a combination of both. That's why I said the focus needs to be on socio-economic, cultural, in addition to the technical aspects that are hindering the adoption and the practice of conservation agriculture.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll take up the wealth creation comment. This is very interesting. I mean, as researchers and everybody in this room, one thing we should be asking ourselves is this. Why are we doing the conservation agriculture? What impact? What I'm talking about is branding. What are you branding? Are you just doing it for fun? We've seen that we shouldn't be doing things the way we were doing them before. Do we just want to have conservation agriculture and pile up papers somewhere talking about conservation agriculture? Or do you want to create an impact in this world? It might be climatic, yes, but then even if it's climatic, then it has to create wealth along the line. Because even if it's climatic, then there's someone who's going to take that invention and come up with something that will create employment, with something that is going to create wealth and economics in the countries that they're operating in. So there's no way you can divide, you can say that you're going to look at conservation agriculture in isolation to wealth creation along the value chain, whatever way you look at it. Even for the researchers, I mean, just what you have in your mind, I mean, the ideologies, the knowledge is still wealth for the country, because it also creates something else beyond just having the talk about conservation agriculture. So I believe that there's no way we can dissect the wealth creation and conservation agriculture technologies, because without the wealth then, where will you get the factors of production? Cost of input, that was not really put to the panel, but to everybody. As we are looking at progression and productivity then, we have to look at cost of input. We have to look at the cost of doing the technology itself vis-a-vis the incomes or the profits that are going to bring to the supply chain actors along these value chains. Because if the cost of production then goes very high, then the outcome is what? Very expensive outputs. Are we having a niche here that is going to pick up the crops? Because the farmer will not just plant for the fun of it. The farmer is doing it for income, for livelihood change, and other things. So cost of production is a key issue here, and that is now even linking it back to the wealth. You cannot talk about cost of inputs without income and wealth creation. Thank you.